Gwini cwr, to ffyrcyn osan felif ysgor y mil y mag elsa yn cyrra tiwrt ys felif y shifche kilur kid flir. As patron of the Community Foundation for Ireland, I'm very pleased to be here and to have been invited to be part of your celebration of the 100th anniversary of the establishment of the Global Community Foundation. And I want to also welcome those who may have come from abroad, and I'm very conscious that today is Africa Day. I have been speaking about Africa already this morning in Trinity College. I think that as President of Ireland, that I'm proud to represent a people that continue to value the importance of the humanitarian spirit, despite the difficulties that you have just referred to, and they are serious. Ireland remains a very generous country in terms of per capita comparisons with other countries. But I don't for a moment take from the urgency of what you have said and your response to it. When I became President of Ireland in November 2011, I emphasised the importance of grasping as a society the meaning of some ancient pieces of wisdom, including, for example, Nenacht go Carla Kela, which indicated that our strength lies in our common wealth. And in a number of my speeches since then, in 2011, I've been stressing the importance of the public world and the recovery of the public world, not only in terms of philosophy, but in terms of its vindication, in terms of solidarity. Our social solidarity is an important source of cohesion, not just in our own society, but between societies. But it is a wealth that is quite palpable today, and it is inspiring to be in the company of people who do work so hard, as you have said, and with such commitment for the creation of an inclusive, supportive, and participative society. Earlier today, speaking about Africa, and looking at the assumptions that were guiding the development projects, we're discussing the issue of land, so that we need as well a discursive space where all of the options for the future of the society can be discussed in a way that is pluralist in terms of scholarship, and also that is sensitive to particular cultural realities. And like indeed so many great initiatives 100 years ago, the concept of a community foundation did grow from the forward thinking of Frederick H. Goff. His vision was one that it was not just forward-looking, but a word that needs to be restored to the centre of what we're doing. His word was emancipatory. It released people from the ties of what were taken for granted inevitabilities. He was inspired by the idea of a fund that he described as that would enable such charitable purposes as will best make for the mental, moral, and physical improvement of the inhabitants of Cleveland. That belief laid the groundwork for a wider global movement that you have spoken about, and it is one that I'm proud to complement. And that movement effected a seismic transformation in the way communities cared for their vulnerable members. Frederick Goff and the men who followed in his footsteps over the last century understood that the struggles of the marginalized are the struggles of society in general. That's often said easily, but it is far more difficult to actually include the most vulnerable in discussion for the options for their future. He had a vision that allowed him to look beyond the immediate and, of course, often urgent alleviation of need or poverty to the long-term resolutions that would allow for self-sufficiency and the genuine and all-important reconnection of vulnerable citizens back to their community and their society. The concept that lies at the heart of the Community Foundation relies on the commitment and determination of those who've retained the capacity to imagine and realise a world that can be created. Very often I put it, and I'll phrase now, that the problem is not learning what is new. The problem is an unlearning what has come to be regarded as what is inevitable. And Raymond Williams, described a good community as one where there is a will to do, not only make room for, but actually encourage all and any who can contribute to the advance in consciousness, which is the common need. But I think he put it much more pithily in his very, very last book when he said, it is when one has questioned the inevitabilities that one has taken the first small steps in a journey of hope. Philanthropy in its best form, then, places the common need, that interdependency, at the very heart of all that it does. It isn't presented as a substitute for just or ethical policies. I note the emphasis of justice and ethics in your own speeches, but by enabling communities to tackle the root causes of problems, it facilitates the identification and the development of long-term, sustainable solutions, and also the empowerment of victims of injustice, inequality, or misfortune, enabling such citizens to become an active part of the solution to their problems, as well as active participants in their community and their society. I thought about that this morning too, when I was considering the issue of land which Professor Steen and I were discussing in relation to Africa. And the importance of we not seeing the continent as an empty continent waiting for our versions of ourselves to be offered as the solution to problems that are very ancient. So philanthropy, in its best form, places that common need, that interdependency, at the very heart of all it does. It now deals with a new context, with new challenges, thrown up, for example, by issues of, as I've said, the new economics that we need, ethics, and sustainable policies that can address climate change. But by enabling communities to tackle the root causes of problems, it facilitates the identification and development of long-term sustainable solutions. I think in that sense, then, enabling citizens to become part of the solution to their problems, as well as active participants in their society. Community Foundation Ireland is now in existence for 14 years, and it has been successful in helping to construct a philanthropic ethos and discourse in Ireland. By connecting people and causes, the Foundation has played a valuable role in contributing to fundamental social change in communities across the country. A social change, perhaps, that is only getting underway in terms of inclusion. The grants which have been made by the Foundation, as you've said, since its establishment in 2000, exceed a total of €16 million. That's a very impressive indication, an indicator of that great generosity which still prevails in this country amongst individuals, families and organisations. Social historians frequently differ in relation to their interpretation of all of this. Is this a function or a consequence of our long memory of our own starvation and famine, or is it a function of the fact that we have more people living outside Ireland than live in Ireland, or migratory experience? However one answers these questions in terms of history or in terms of interpretation, it is something we welcome, that generous instinct is still there. And I believe myself, and it is my wish, that it will help you ride out the difficulties that you have been referring to earlier. I think it's very important that it does so. I think that the general good must never be defeated, really, by a particular, what I would call, aberration in the long history of Irish generosity. I think that the range of initiatives that have been granted, that have been taken, that have received funding from the Foundation, is also an endorsement of original thinking and of innovative measures, which we're called upon regularly to invoke as a people. Again, I think about that very often. Some people use the term, one part of the world or another is not yet modern. We've been forced to modernise again and again. We modernised when we decided, having been forced to abandon our own language, we took on another, and then decided to recast that and win a few Nobel Prizes in it, and so forth and so on. And then equally the same way, what I've been encouraging academics and young scholars in particular to do is to be just as innovative in breaking the molds in the social sciences, in the economic thinking, and in the financial thinking, and in the way we approach and try to understand our world. So we're called upon to continue modernizing, to invoke as a people our creativity and our innovation, not only at times of crisis, but also to approach the global problems that I have referred to, issues of trade, issues of ethical relationship with each other, and issues that affect the climate that affect us all. So the work of the Foundation provides an inspiring example of what can be achieved when we seek new and achievable answers to old questions. When we explore the potential of modern technology and look beyond perceived, as I've said, suggested inevitabilities, or as we seek to develop alternative solutions and actions. We do need a discourse on how technology and science is to impact and be delivered in a way that doesn't open another fissure of inequality globally, or in a way that doesn't damage social stability or interfere with personal rights. There are many aspects, these I've just mentioned a few, of the Community Foundation's work which are quite remarkable. I think in the first instance, the social issues on which the Foundation has focused its work engage with some of the most marginalised and excluded communities and groups in our society. Many who fell outside the work of the more traditional philanthropic model. And then as well, because of the spread of that which we have become involved, it has often identified new needs and new places on where the light should shine. Those who have been empowered by the Foundation include the homeless, the elderly, victims of domestic violence, citizens from ethnic, minority groups, those who devote their time to caring for sick and elderly relatives, and many other members of our society who, for a variety of reasons, so often feel condemned to live half-lives, shadowed by loneliness, fear, or rejection. And I have to say myself that, for example, speaking to those who live in the shadows just recently when I was in the United States, I think we must learn as well that we do not allow people who come to our country or who feel vulnerable to live in shadows either. Our concern, if it is to be morally significant, has in fact to be global and engaged, a subject to which I hope to return to again. The second notable feature of the Foundation's work is its emphasis on impact and empowerment. Funding by the Community Foundation has been used not only to provide assistance, as I said, to give a voice to many of those within our society who would otherwise feel excluded or prevented from participating and contributing to their communities, but it has been very practical. And I was greatly encouraged when I heard you say, Chairperson, that in 2013 you'd reached a figure of 3.5 million euro being donated to community and voluntary groups. That level of support for communities, and particularly for communities that suffer disadvantage, is to be commended, as you say, particularly at this time when there is a contraction in public funding, and also when we have been brought through the circumstances to which you have referred already. I think that many of our citizens are now dealing with increased unemployment, reduced incomes, mortgage arrears, negative equity, and renewed immigration. And we will be tested by our approach to these particular problems, because no true economic recovery at European level or global level can in fact neglect the citizens that are involved. And also it's for another time and another place where I have addressed previously the issues of how we need, in fact, the biggest test facing our continent is the reduction in unemployment, the poverty associated with it, and particularly youth unemployment. But to recognise that so many of the people remain willing to assist, that is so good. That those in need, it is to be reminded of the spirit of citizenship that still exists in our country, which I continue to try and invoke, and that despite the extreme individualism that so recently threatened the fabric of our society, we're still a heart of people moved by the decencies held in common. The decencies held in common, to which people like yourselves regularly appeal. And so appropriate as well, such an attitude is too. a republic. A people that we are a people who have not lost that fundamental instinct to act in the common interest, to respond to those in need and say a resounding yes when asked to help our communities. But I do think we have to be able to interrogate the assumptions that stand as opposition to that engaged philosophy. To conclude, I'd like to commend the Community Foundation for Ireland, of which I have the honour to be patron, for its commitment to playing a part in supporting and growing philanthropy in Ireland. Philanthropy with a special Irish instinct, thus supporting the common good and the welfare of the present and future generations, by conforming to the ideal of justice, while at the same time concerning itself with the seeking of practical responses to poverty and exclusion. The concept that lies at the heart of the Community Foundation for Ireland is one that realises all that is possible when we begin to question inevitabilities and to recognise and welcome real opportunities to effect change. It reminds us that if we are to build together an active, inclusive citizenship, it isn't something that is to be recovered from the ancient past. It isn't something that is simply to be refurbished as if it already existed. It is in many senses a project that has yet to be achieved. And I think it must be founded on a sustainable social economy and a society which is profoundly ethical. And it is for that reason that I have this year been concentrating on promoting a debate and discourse on ethics in all aspects of Irish life. It must be based on participation, on equality and respect for all. So I want to take this opportunity as President of Ireland to thank all those involved in the Foundation for all that you have been doing, that you are doing, that you may do for society here in Ireland. I so wish you every success to continue your vital work.